We're on the bottom of Chav Dalet Amud Beis. Amra Papa Hilchasa. That's 5 lines from the bottom. Chav Dalet Amud Beis. So the subject we had spoken about was about Seder, about you're allowed to trap, what's considered trapped already, that you should be allowed to. And even after that, we had the question about Muktzah, even if it got trapped on Yantif, but Yantif, when Moshe was not yet trapped, then it'll be Muktzah. We came out that we pass in Safek Mukhan is also Aser, if you're not sure. So you have to be machmir. Maybe it was not. We said that was Sheish Lamatirin. That's a possibility. The Mishnah Berurah brings down. So we're continuing the sugya. Amra Papa Hilchasa. Nachmi Shevi. There only Yisrael b'Yom Tov. What if a goy? The halacha is if a goy brought a present for a Jew on Yom Tov. What's the problem? That he might have cut it down on Yom Tov. And then there will be two things. Rashi says Muktzah. Also, Malacha was done. That a goy did Malacha for the Jew. They say that Rashi means even if the guy did malacha for himself, so there's no Isser Mitzvah that he didn't do it for the Jew, but still it'll be muktzah because when Yom Tov came in, this item was still attached to the tree. So even though later on the guy took it off, it'll still be muktzah because ben hashmashas. So therefore, if there's a type of food that could have been attached, so then it's aser because you have to be choshesh that it was attached when Shabbos when Yom Tov came in. So even though the guy brings you the present, you're not allowed to eat it because maybe it was muktzah ben hashmashas. But not only on Yantif you're not allowed to eat it, you also have to wait b'chtei sheyasu. These words b'chtei sheyasu means as long as it takes that it should be have been made in a permissible way. So here's a big machlokas rishonim over here, Rashi and Tosfos. Why is it necessary to wait b'chtei sheyasu even as long as it will take after the Yantif? So Rashi says that they shouldn't be nene from malachas Yantif. That since the guy did malacha for you, so you shouldn't be benefit from that. So you have to wait. How long it would have taken that malacha after Yantif? Tosfos says the reason is the gzeira that you might tell the guy if you're going to be able to benefit from it right after Yantif, even though you're not going to do malacha yourself, but you might be will suspect that a person might have that might have a big Yetzirah to tell the guy to do it because he wants to benefit from it right after Yantif. He won't benefit from on Yantif, but he'll benefit from it right after. So in order to take away that benefit, we tell him you're not going to be able to benefit anyway till after it takes time to do it afterwards. You're not going to benefit anything. This machlokas over here, there are a few minutes. There's a very interesting Rashi over here. If anybody has time today, Cholamoid, during the meal, you can enjoy Rashi. This big Rashi over here talks about how he thought his pshat, and then he saw others on Machmir. He wanted to ask his Rebbe had died already, and somebody else that he was asking. And then he found those who hold like him, those who argue on him. So, Yeshikach. So this is interesting Rashi. There's this Rashi over here, not a usual Rashi about how Rashi took apart a sugya and how he asked other people. But just to point out that there's machlokas rishonim about these words in the Gemara that say that b'chtei sheyasu. Again, Rashi says the reason is you shouldn't benefit from it. And Nafkamina they say is that according to Rashi, if you have 2 days, Rashi himself says if you have 2 days of Yantif and Chutzlaris, that one day is really a weekday. You only have to have b'chtei sheyasu into the second day. The second day of Yantif it'll be ready mutter because Manavshach you're not benefiting from the malach of Yantif. According to Tosfos, it says that after both days of Yantif because Gzeri you might tell him in order to be able to benefit from it. So they talk about this machlokas. We paskin menadin like we're trying to be machmir like Tosfos, but menadin is mutter like Rashi. So just to point out that this din of b'chtei sheyasu means you're not allowed to benefit until after Yantif. Also by Shabbos it happens also. Malacha that I did go for a guy did for a Jew, not only aren't you allowed to benefit from it on Shabbos and Yantif, you're not allowed to benefit from it either Matzah Shabbos, as long as it would have taken to have been done after Shabbos, that he shouldn't have, either according to Rashi, they shouldn't benefit from Malachas Yantif, or according to Tosfos, that he shouldn't have a Yetzirah to tell the guy to do it for you in order that you have it ready right away. So what do we say so far? That a guy that brought a present to a Jew, if it's on Yantif, if it's something that you have to be choshesh that it was attached when Yantif came in, so it's Aser, and even after Yantif it's also Aser, the same time that it would take to have done it after Yantif. And the bottom line, if there's no chash that it was something which was attached to the ground, so that's out of the question, no such problem. But there's another problem, maybe he brought it out of the Tchum. If he lives within the Tchum, so then it's mutter because no problem, no malacha was done, and he didn't do any malacha for bringing it out of the Tchum. But if it comes from out of the Tchum, next page, if the guy brought us ma'at the tchum etzasi because you're benefiting from it. But it says only the person who was brought for. If it was brought for one Jew, so it's only also for him, it's not mutter for somebody else. Here Rashi has a problem. Why should that be? If malacha was done for a Jew, it should be also for everybody. The Rashi says, maybe, and this maybe we pass like this, maybe, that there's a difference between a malacha deraisa and malacha derabanan. That the tchum, we're only going to take it as a drabanan, tchumen is drabanan, and therefore, on this drabanan, it's only also for the Jew that it was brought for. It wasn't not also for somebody else. So to sum up what we had so far, that's the first sugya, that if a guy did malacha for a Jew, so it's also to benefit from it on Yantif, or on Shabbos, if that matter, but he was talking about Yantif. Even if you didn't ask him, he did it for the Jew, so you're not allowed to benefit from it. Yeah, and even after Yantif, also you have to wait as long as it would have taken to have done that after Yantif. If it was only Rabbanan, so then it says, according to this chapter, like, then it's only also for the one it was done for, it's mutter for somebody else. So if the guy did an Isser Rabbanan, like bringing out of the tchum for a particular Jew, his intention was to bring it for somebody, so it's also for him only. It's also for his family, but for somebody else, it'll be permissible.
Even on you.
Even not, yes, even on Yantif, right. New Gemara. Amar Rabba Bar Rav Huna Amar Rav. Rabba Bar Huna said the name of Rav. Hasocher Amas Hamayim Me'ev Yamtiv. If somebody stuffed up a stream, a brook, and the case was that this stream would have allowed fish to come into a pond or some kind of a place where he catches them, but he closed it up. When Yantif came in, he closed it, right before Yantif, he closed it off, that nothing came in on Yantif. So he didn't look, but now he looks a little tomorrow, or Yantif, he wakes up and he sees that fish. That means that for sure they were caught before Yantif because he closed the entrance before Yantif came in. So he knows that these fish were caught before Yantif. So he's allowed to take them. The post can have an issue over here. What do you mean take it? We just had a whole Gemara yesterday. That you're not allowed to take fish out of the place that it was pond that it was caught, even if they're caught already, because you still have to catch them. So they say that this must be very, very, very small place, like a bathtub or something like that, that it's not much in reach. And there's something which is so small that that's not even called Seder. And like they have in the fish store, that you have the bathtub over there that he has a live fish. That's not an issue of going fishing. You just put your hands in, you take whatever you want. So such a thing for sure is mutter. So here the issue is not, the Gemara doesn't even discuss about Seder, it just talks about Hazmana. So we're going into a sugya which we had a couple of pages ago, a while ago, by the Yonim, that even if you have pigeons, but you have to prepare them since you're not sure you can eat all of them. Some of them you're going to eat, some you're not going to eat. You have to be borer. You have to decide mazmin. You have to be mazmin which one you want. And here, this is going to be today's subject about Hazmana, that you have to prepare and decide that you want to eat it. So these fish, the fact that you closed the dam over there and whatever is inside, that means that you thought that there might be some fish over there. So you didn't bother looking. Even if you don't know if there are fish, the fact that you closed it, that's considered as mana, and the fish is ready to eat. There's no trapping necessary. It's already trapped, and it's called as mana also because you closed the dam in a way that whatever's inside I want to eat. I don't want things to come in on Yantif that I don't, and then it was muktzah if it came in on Yantif. It has to have been trapped before Yantif. So the fact that you closed the dam, that's what the word socher means. Socher means to close off. Now that's how they say in Hebrew a dam, a secher, samach kaf reish. So it means to close off. So the fact that he closed off the dam, that shows that whatever's inside caught already, that's what he wants to use, and that's considered muzman. What do you mean? What do you? No. On Yantif it's too late. Yes, you have to close it before Yantif comes in. So it has to be muzman. It has to be that he wants to eat it. So the fact that he closed it off, no more fish are going to come in. That means that whatever's inside he wants to eat, then it's considered as man and he's allowed to eat it. And we just mentioned agav, that's not considered trapping because it's such a small bathtub over here. There's such a small pond that it's in the hand. You just pick it up without any effort. That was yesterday's Gemara, Ein Sogin. But today we're saying that this is something, you see something which is so small, then it's not considered trapping at all, and this will be mutter. The Gemara doesn't discuss that, but that's what the poskim say based on this Gemara, that there is something which is so small that even fish also is considered trapped, and there's nothing to do. And the application will be in the fish store. The owner of the fish store wants to go to his on Yantif, you can open up his fish store. People can come also, but nowadays you don't have that happening. But theoretically, a person wants to get a fresh fish mamish, he could go to the bathtub that they have, the tub that they have in the fish store, and take out a fish. That's considered mamish caught. You don't have to go fishing over there, so that's permissible. Okay, and here it's considered muzman also, surely in the fish store. But even this dam over here, the fact that he closed it off before Yantif, that shows that he wants to eat whatever's inside, and therefore it's considered as mana. Amar Rav Chisda, the Divri Rabbeinu Nilmad. This was said by Rav. Rav is the one who says, finished saying that. So Rav Chisda says from Rabbeinu, from our teacher, Rav, we can learn Chai Shekin Double Paradise and it's Zimon. So we're going into the Sugi of Azmana, and here's a case where he has a deer that he has available. What's the case? Chai Shekin Double Paradise. Paradise is an orchard, and Chaya means, for our purposes, a deer. A kosher Chaya is going to be a deer that it took nest in a paradise. So what's the point? The issue is that the deer, let's say, jumped into an enclosed area. It could jump in, it could jump out, and that's surely also to take on Yantif because it's trapping. The deer is not considered trapped just because if it's in a place where it can go out and it runs around, so that's considered trapping, surely also. But the case is that it had a baby, that this deer gave birth, and the baby is not able to jump around. So it's in the enclosure, it can't jump out, and it's considered trapped. So you have a deer which is trapped. The chaya that took nest, I guess that's a wrong word, but whatever the point is that it gave birth in a paradise, and the child now is trapped. So that's a good yontif meal to have the baby deer. But the question is, do you have to have azmana? Do you have to prepare it to say, I want to eat it on yontif? So he says, I could learn out from Rav, who said the case of the fish that came into the pond, and you close the dam before yontif. That's like over there, you don't need azmana. So too, Chayin Shekin Double Paradise does not end tzrich azmana. End tzrich azimah because it's already considered ready to eat, and it's as if you designated it for eating. But the obvious question is going to be, the Gemara is going to ask right away, that's not a comparison. The case of the dam, you close the dam. By closing the dam, you did something to show that I want to eat whatever's inside that's already caught. But by the end, this case of the Chayin Shekin Double Paradise, you didn't do anything. You have an enclosure, and a deer jumped in, and you find that there's a baby deer over there. Everything's very nice, but you didn't prepare it before. You didn't do anything. So the Gemara is going to ask the question in a second. Rav Nachman, usually the word Kana means to take nest. But here the point is that the animal moved in over there and it gave birth. So I don't know literally what the word means. If anybody has a translation, I'd be happy.
There's a mother deer.
The mother's there, but the mother you're not allowed to eat. That's the mother could jump in and out. That's not trapped. But the baby that I gave birth to, that's trapped. And now you have a lucky, nice for a baby deer. But the point is that you do azmana to prepare it for food. It was till now it was wild, and now you're going to use it for food. So he says it's okay. And he learned it out seemingly from Rav's din, but the Gemara is going to ask right away that it's not similar because in Rav's case, he did something in order to show an act of azmana by closing the dam. He didn't do anything. That's going to be the Gemara's kasha right away. So who said that? Rav Chisda said he learns out from Rav. Rav's the one who said the din of the fish, and Rav Chisda applied that also to the deer. Rav Nachman nafal chavin b'Rav Basa. Rav Nachman said our friend fell into trouble. Rav Basa is like kashas or difficulties, and it's
when you say Rabbeinu, you're saying it's Rav?
Yeah, when Rav Chisda says Rabbeinu means Rav, and we see it because Rav is the one who said
Rav.
What?
Rabbeinu was Rav.
Rav Chisda's Rav is Rav. And Rav Nachman, who was a friend of Rav Chisda, he said our friend, that's Rav Chisda, fell into a big problem because there's a kasha. There's going to be kasha, so we're going to ask on him. Rashi says he's falling into machlokas gedolos here, but a lot of people are going to ask kashas on him because what he said is not a good comparison. Before we continue with what the kasha is, the Gemara's different version. Ikeda Amri of the names over here, not that Rav Chisda said so, but Amar Rabba Bar Huna, he's the one who said that from Rav you could learn that. The same thing, but that's who said it, not Rav Chisda, but Rabba Bar Huna. On this, Rav Nachman said, not our friend. Rabba Bar Huna was not a friend of Rav Nachman. Rav Huna was the friend of Rav Nachman. But he said, Nafal Bar Chavin B'Rabba Basa, the son of our friend. Means Rav Chisda Rashi points out that Rav Chisda and Rav Nachman and Rav Huna, they were contemporaries, and Rabba, the son of Rav Huna, was the next generation. So according to the second Girsa, that Rabba Bar Huna is the one who derived this from Rav. So Rav Nachman said that the son of our friend is in big trouble. Nafal Bar Chavin B'Rabba Basa. So that was a different Girsa. The Sikadamri. Okay, I can't get the highlight over here. No, can't do it because it's the English way. But okay. But anyway, from the Ikad until Rav Vasa, these 4 lines was a different Girsa of who said it. But anyway, what's the kasha? The kasha on this derivation is Hasam lo kavod maisa. Acha kavod maisa. The case of the fish, he did a maisa. He closed the dam, and that's how he shows that he wants to eat whatever was caught already. But the case of the paradise with the chaya, he didn't do anything. So who says that it's muzman? Maybe you have to be mazmin. If you weren't mazmin, it's not good. So that's first of all a kasha on the derivation. Second of all, he has a Persian price that says that that's not true. And Tanya, there's like a kasha. Before he just said, first he said just as a difference from Rav, you can't learn out from Rav. And second of all, there's a price that says fresh against you. That's mamish against what Rav Chisda or Rabbi Bar Huna had said. Here it says that a chaya that gave birth in a paradise, that you do have to be mezamein, tzricha lezamein. Aga, before the Brisa finishes off, it says something else, which is not again to us right now. Tzipor drawer. That's a side point. Tzipor drawer, again, a sparrow that is very small. A tzipor drawer is very small, and even when it gives birth, the mother is not much bigger than the baby bird. So if you did, the mother could fly, and that you're not allowed to eat on Yom Tov because it's Seder. It's going to be tramping in order to catch it. But the baby bird, which cannot yet fly, so that's permissible to eat if you mazmin it. But even when you mazmin, make sure you got the right bird because they look so similar. The mother and the daughter look so similar that you might confuse them. So it says you have to make a simon between by the wings to know which is the mother, which is the daughter, which is the child. That you shouldn't make this difference out of. You think that you designated this one, you really designated the other one. So make a simon. But anyway, what is the first point that we wanted? The Brisa says openly that a chai shekin of paradise, you do have to do a special asmana. And Rav Chisda wanted to derive from Rav that you don't have to. Tiyufta seems to be a kasha from this Brisa that says that you do need asmana if you have such a windfall that you find a baby deer in your paradise. So you can't just go and eat it because it's trapped. You have to make asmana before Yom Tov. So Rav Chisda said differently. The kasha Rav Chisda from this Brisa. But the more now takes the other side because there's a Brisa like Rav Chisda. Do you need zimun? Now it's going to show a Brisa that says you don't need zimun. This is going to be a long Brisa. We'll just jump a second. But Tanya, just a second.
Now there's an argument that you don't need zimun at all.
Now we're going to say that you don't need zimun, right? That by the case of this deer, shekin of a paradise, it's kosher. It means that it's you're allowed to take it on Yom Tov even without doing a special asmana. I'm just going to jump a second just to show the words. Here it says. A couple of lines later, I'm going to go back. I just want to show the kasha is going to be about 5 lines in. That's going to be the Brisa that we're going to get to. That's going to be a riot to Rav Chisda. But anyway, till we get there, the Brisa starts. Other information. But Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. Amr Hashem ben Laza. Modem Mishamah Besil al Shesminan Besocha Kain. We had this before already many pages ago, that if you designated a pigeon a pigeon that you want to eat on Yom Tov, so it's only the one if it still stays in the same compartment. But if it came out, it's not where you left it. So it could be it's not the same one. So it's also if you designated a bird in a certain cane in a certain compartment, the nest, and you found that it's not there. So it's also because it isn't the same one. No issue about that. That's true. Everyone agrees to that. When do you have to have asmana? Only by yonim, yonei shobach. That's the one that the pigeons that you make a shobach, I'm not sure what the word, a dovecote, or yoni aliyah, you put them on top of your house and they have a place to nest. We had this yesterday, that birds that they took nest in tfichin. Tfichin Rashi says that they mean some kind of jugs that you built into the wall, like a little compartment that they have in order to take nest. And a bira also means like in a building. So then you have to do hasmana, because these are wild birds that you have to do hasmana in order to say I want to eat them, as we had the sugi before. But but geese and chickens, and these are things that are domesticated, and we said yesterday the sugya that they're not considered tramping because they come home, even if you don't catch them, they come home on their own and they need you for food. So therefore it's not considered trapping. But this brisa, which we quoted yesterday, here it says besides not considered trapping, it also doesn't even need asmana. They're all considered that you want to eat them, and therefore they don't need a special asmana. Also in the list it says Chai Shekin of a paradise. It says it does not need asmana. So it's a right to Rav Chisda. So even though there was a brisa that said you do need asmana, this brisa says you don't need asmana. That's going to be the contradiction. We're going to try to find an answer. Also, the brisa continues some more information that also we had some of it already. Sipor Deror, that's we had a second ago, that the sparrow, that even if you designated it, you have to make a simon by its wings in order that it shouldn't get confused with its mother, because the mother itself is very small. You can't tell the difference between the newborn and the mother, and therefore, if you designate the newborn, you have to make a simon to know that you're getting the right one.
Rebbe, there's one concept I'm getting confused on in this sugya. The difference between Bereshusa Adam or the difference between Badasa Adam that he wants to use it. It seems that both figure in and they're different things.
I'm not following that.
If it would be Reshusa Adam, it means it's like trapped. So it's zamun in that direction because it's already ki'ilu trapped. That's ki'ilu agilui das that you wanted. But if it's just Badasa Adam,
No, the Gemara is not sure. The Gemara thinks even something which is trapped in your rishus, like this deer, but if you didn't have hazmana for it, you didn't have das for it, so maybe it's not hazmana. Just because it's in your rishus doesn't necessarily mean so. Buy chickens and
So
geese.
you're saying it's not sufficient condition to be trapped, but it would be sufficient condition to have done a Maisa or been Megala Das that you want to use it on Yom Tov.
Yes, but it surely has to be trapped also. There are two issues. One is that you're not allowed to trap on Yom Tov. The other one is even if you're not trapping, it has to have hazmana, has to have bin muzman. So we took care of Seder. There's no case of trapping over here, but also he's talking about hazmana, that you have to have das, that you wanted it for food. And they have right now holding in the middle of a steer. There's a contradiction about a chayish shekin number of days. Is that considered automatic das or not? And that's what we're holding now in the kasha. So we don't know the answer. In one place it says that a chayish shekin number of days you do have to prepare especially. The other one says you don't have to. That's holding in the kasha. Still, we'll have the answer in 1 minute. The Brisa continued. We'll just finish off the Brisa until we get back to the answer. Hamukushar b'hamununayin b'boros u'b'batim u'b'shichin u'b'moros mutarin u'v'yilanos tasur v'shem yalav yitlosh. Even though we said that if you have things that are already marked and even manua known that you pick them up, we had a Mishnah before. According to Bishama, you have to be menanea in order to make sure you made a good asmana.
Oh,
But
you pick it up, make it a little shaky.
Yeah, that was the sugi before, right? That was Machlokes B'Shami B'Silo. We're not going into it over here, but the point is that it's only in a place which is not a tree, like boros, batim, if it's in the bor or in the house, or shichin amoros, all different kind of boros. They're all mutter. But the point is, you learn asur. If it's in a tree, it's asur. So because what's the problem with a tree? That any Shabbos night, you're not allowed to climb the tree in order to get something on top, because you might you might tear off a branch. Side issues. And the next point is nothing to do with Shabbos and Yom Tov, even in the weekday. If somebody went and tied a bird, made a simon on a bird, or shook it on this kind of yonim that cannot fly yet, so it's a kinyan. He made it with hefker, and he made a kinyan on it. You're not allowed to take it anymore, even though he's not there. Once he picked it up, made a kinyan, it can't fly, so it's his. So that's a side point that you're not allowed to take because the first one who came, he made a kinyan. But back to the kasha, that's the point. That is to scroll up again the kasha again. Here, the first Brisa said, "Chaya shekin number pardes tzricha lezamen." Tzricha lezamen. And here, the next Brisa said that where is that? Here it is. Chaya shekin number pardes mutar ve'ein tzricha lezamen. So a contradiction in the two Brises. This case of the deer that got stuck in your pardes and you want to have it for Yontif, but you didn't know about it beforehand. Is it mutar without zimun or not?
That's the first price.
You have two Brises. The Gemara wanted to first learn that from Rab's case about the fish and the dam. That the Gemara says it's not a comparison because by the dam you didn't act, you did something to be mazmin. By the chaya you didn't do anything. And we also have a Stephen Brises. One says it's mutar, one says it's asa. So the Gemara in the second white line. One is talking about the child, one is talking about the mother. That the child is mutar without hazmana, the mother is asa without hazmana. That's how the Gemara wants to answer the contradiction in the two Brises. But the Gemara right away jumps and says that's not true. The mother is not enough to have hazmana. Ima, say the mali saboya. The mother is not enough to say I want to eat it. The mother jumps in, jumps out. So surely you can't eat it. Even if you're a mazman, it's also not going to be mutar because it's seder. It's mama's trapping. It's going to be considered trapping to get the mother. So that's impossible. Even if you say hazmana on the mother, it's also asa. You're not allowed to trap. We're all talking about things that are not difficult. They're already trapped, but you still need hazmana. So new teretz. Both of them are talking about the baby, which is trapped, and the question was hazmana. So that was the contradiction. Do you need hazmana or not? Depends how close it is to the city. If it's next to the city, so then you have das on it, and they hear the poskim say it has to at least be that you know that there was such a deer. If you don't know that there's such a deer that came into your paradise, so then it's asa. But a fish, the fact that you closed the dam, so that's making a statement that I do want whatever's inside, even though I don't know if anything was trapped. I don't know if I caught any fish, but I'm closing the dam. That whatever's there, I want to take. But the case of the deer, it's only mutar if you know that it was there. If you know that it was there before Yontif, even though you didn't do hazmana, your das is to take it. But if it's far away from the city, even if you know that it was caught over there, that the deer gave birth and there's a baby deer, but since it's away from the city, it's only mutar if you're a mazman. You said before that I want to eat it for Yontif. So that's the end of the sugya. What we talk about today, so far, the first sugya was about the guy who did malacha there's the thing of B'chtei Yasu. That's the earlier sugya that for God did malacha for a Jew, even though he didn't tell him to do it, he did it on his own. He did it for a Jew. It's also to benefit from it on Yantif, and even after Yantif B'chtei Yasu, the same time that it would take for him to do it after Yantif. And by Yisr Rabbanan, if you only did Yisr Rabbanan, if you like Tchum, then it's only also for the Jew that it was done for. It's mutter for a different Jew, even on Yantif. And then we came into the sugya about Hazmana, and we spoke about fish that you close the dam in a way that whatever's in is in already, and if there's a very small pond that is mamish easy to just grab it, so it's considered trapped and it's mutter, and they don't eat Hazmana because that itself was considered a Ma'aseh Hazmana. And the poskim say, even though if you don't know the case is, you didn't know there was a fish there. Like it says, the next day he got up and he saw it was a fish. That's what he wanted to do. In case it's a fish over here making Hazmana, it's mutter. The rest of the Gemara spoke about Hazmana on an animal that might have been trapped in your paradise, that because the mother gave birth over there, the mother could jump out, but the baby cannot. So as far as trapping, there's no problem. But the issue is it Muzman. So the Gemara comes out, there's a difference between if it's near the city or away from the city. If it's near the city, so then your das is to eat it, if you know that it's there before Yantif. And if it's away from the city, then it's not considered as mana unless you especially said, I want to eat this on Yantif. Far away from the city, you don't have das on it. You don't have das for things that are far away. Things that are near you, if it's near the city, so then you have das that if I have a paradise over there with the animal stuck, that's good enough, close enough that I'll get it in order to eat for Yantif. But even if you didn't have specific das, but if it's far away, so then when it's time you don't have das.
So Rebbe, how did they come up with the share of Ayin Amos?
That he's far away. If he's close by, then it's okay. That means that his das is on something that he lives nearby. Then if he knows that there's a deer that was caught over there, he has das to eat it. If not, he doesn't have das. Yes, please.
What is the share of Ayin Amos based on?
It doesn't say here. It doesn't say 70 amos. Here it doesn't say. They're taking it from different gemaras. That over there it says that 70 amos is called the Bura Shalir. That's called like the Gilyon, the margin of the city. That's Gemara in Erevin that says the Bura Shalir is 70 amos around the city. The Mishnah continues. New Mishnah. Here's no question of trapping anymore because we're not talking about a chaya. Oh, if we're talking about behema. Behema means a domesticated animal like a cow, a sheep, and a goat. But the case is that it's surely allowed to shech these animals on Yantif. But the issue is that you're not hungry and you ate already. And the only reason why you want to shech it is because it's misukenes. It's dying. And if you're not going to do anything, it's going to become a dead animal, dead and a vela, and nothing to do with it. Just give it to the dogs. So you want to save it by shechting it when it's still alive. And then it'll be good food. But the problem is that you don't need it today. I ate already. So are you allowed to shech the animal in order to save it? What does it mean to save it? Not to save its life, to save its meat. Its meat should be valuable. It shouldn't become the vela. So that's the issue on Yantif. Of course, then Shabbos you're not allowed to because you're not allowed to shech for anything. On Yantif, they don't eat for Ochel Nefesh. And here the issue is you don't really need Ochel Nefesh because you ate already. Are you allowed to shech it just to save the meat? You're not allowed to shecht it because you have no use for it, no use for the meat. Just to save it, hefsted alone is not going to be a reason why you should be allowed to eat it. But if you have enough time to shecht it and to eat a kazayas, even roasted. So what does roasted mean? That the cooking takes much longer than to roast. Roast is the easiest way to make it edible. So as long as you have enough time to eat a kazayas, which is a very small time, of tzli, of roasted meat, which is the easiest way to eat it, so then it's considered mutter. The poskim say here that you don't have to actually eat it, as long as you have enough time. Even if you don't actually eat it, because that's what it says other places, maybe a guest will pass by and he would want to eat from it even though you ate already, but the guest maybe would enjoy eating a kazayis of meat. And as we know that even for kazayis meat, you have to shech the whole animal in order to get a kazayis. So in order to give a kazayis for somebody who might want to eat it today, if it's already no time to do that it's already 2 minutes before Shkia, and by the time you finish shechting it, it's not going to be time to get a kazayis sleep, so then you're not allowed to shecht it. You can't, even though the animal's going to die, too late, what can you do? But if you'll have time to be able to eat a kazayis of this meat, so then you're allowed to shecht before Yantif is over. Before Yantif is over, you're doing it on Yantif. So you'll have enough time for Yantif, so it'll be better if it's considered Ochel Nefesh. And even though you're not interested in eating, maybe a guest will pass by and he'll enjoy a kazayis of meat. So it's mutter to shech the animal. It's only Isser Rabbanan usually. But here, we'll take away the Isser Rabbanan in order to save the Hefsed Ruba. It's going to lose the whole animal. It's going to die. Rabbi Akiva would make it even more. Rabbi Akiva Omer, afilu kazayis chai. We based it even kazayis of raw meat. People also eat raw meat sometimes. So not even sali, just raw meat. Enough time that he should be able to shecht it and cut off a kazayis of meat from the place that is shechted. Basically, chasam means by the neck where you shechted it. You don't have to start opening it up to get the piece of meat. The place where it's shechted, right over there, there's a piece of meat. You're going to cut off a kazayis and eat it, or you or somebody else might pass by. That's enough reason to be able to be matir to shecht the animal to save the meat. A new point that the Mishnah talks about, shechta basada. What if you shechted it in the field? Now, usually you don't shecht in the field because it's a big tircha. If you shecht away from the far away, you're going to have to carry the animal home. You walk with the animal, he carries the meat, he walks alive, and then you shecht it at home, and it's right there. Here the case is that it's musukenes. It's going to die. It's not going anyplace. And if you don't take it up, if you don't shecht it now, it's going to die. And you're going to have to carry the nevela back home. So, what?
It has a tractor on.
On Yantif we're talking about.
It's already
It's so on Yantif. So on Yantif, and also even the tractor owner is not going to help him because to take it alive is going to die by then. You have to shecht it in the field in order to save its meat, to shecht it.
No,
But now you want to get it.
Shecht it in the field and then tractor on its home.
Right, so the weekday you think about a tractor, but on the Yantif you can't. But how would you like to do it? Would you like to take it by carrying it on a pole, which is the way usually we do in the weekday? You put the animal's feet, tie the feet to a pole, and then two people carry it on their shoulders. That's the way to take home an animal. But here it says, "Lo yviana b'mota b'mota." Don't carry it back on home on these poles. I don't know the difference between a mota and a mota, but it seems different kind of poles. Maybe Rashi says that it looks like a zilusa. It looks too weekdayish to carry an animal whole on its by his feet by the pole. So you have to cut it up and take it home by pieces. It's a zilusa to yantif to do such. It looks too weekdayish. People don't usually do that. On yantif you'll be shechting and salting all these things, but you're not allowed to carry the whole animal home. So therefore, you have to cut it up and take it home piece by piece. So we had two halachas in the Mishnah. One was that for hefsed meruba, you're allowed to shecht as long as somebody might be able to eat a kazayis, according to Tanakam Matzli, according to Rabbi Akiva, even raw. And the second halacha was that if you do shecht it far away from the house, so you're not allowed to carry it home in a way of zilusa, you have to cut it up and then take it home as pieces. The Gemara continues. Amar Rami Baraba. Doesn't matter.
Carrying it in big plastic bags or something. It also doesn't look so good.
It doesn't look like I'm not sure of the problem, but the point is that you're not carrying the whole animal home. Carrying the whole animal, like you said, a tractor on. It looks like you're doing something weekdayish. And young people usually don't do that. So therefore, we will matter the hefsed meruba, but we're not going to be matter you to carry it in a way that's considered over the whole. The Torah says by a carbonol you have to hefshet nituach. Hefshet means to flare, to flay, to skin the animal and to cut it into pieces. That's the din of hefshet nituach. That's the Torah says that. But he says, who are doing lekatavim? So too, a butcher. Means even by chulin also, don't eat the meat before you take off the skin and you cut it up. So we're not sure what he means yet. Why is he saying that? By chulin is no such din. By olin is such a din, but by chulin is no such din. So where does he get it from? Mikan lin the Torah. So these next words there, cheretz, is some take it out because it's giving away the maskan of the Gemara. The Gemara doesn't know that yet. Because these two words there, cheretz, it might be good to erase it temporarily. Mikan lin the Torah, shelo yochel adam basa kodem hefshet nituach. The Torah teaches that you shouldn't eat meat before you skin the animal and you cut it into pieces. But the Gemara doesn't know yet why. It already gives it away. It says there, cheretz. But we'll see soon. What's the shot in this member of Rami Baraba? Why does he say that you should learn from here that even by chulin you also should take the skin the animal and cut it up before you eat it? Is he coming to say against Rav Huna? Rav Huna said that you're allowed to, with the rice, really allowed to eat an animal without checking the simanim of treifa. Means when you shecht an animal, do you know if it's a treifa? You have to check inside the different simanim. If there are 18 treifas, you have to check. Like nowadays, we do check some things, some treifas, we do check the lungs, but we don't check everything. But could you assume without checking that the animal is kosher? So Huna says yes, that really you're allowed to assume. Nowadays, the minhag is to check a few of the treifas because they're easy to check. And the post can talk about how come we check the lungs. But here, Binadin, it has a cheskas, not treifa. But most animals are not a treifa.
Rebbe, why would we ever assume that if shchita is a mater, that it's becheskas when it's enos rucha, that it's becheskas okay? You need the mater.
Again, I didn't get that part yet. You're talking about the first part, which I didn't say yet. When an animal is alive, it has a cheskas iser because it's even menachai. it has to be shechted or enas of huach, evim malachai, that a live animal is becheskas issa. It has the status quo that it's asa tita until you know that it had a good shechita. If you have any suffix, we consider that it's asa because that a cheskas issa. And that a live animal before shechita is becheskas issa, until you know that it was shechted well. But after the shechita, nishchata, and now the only question, if you had a good shechita, the only question is it a treifa or not? Means the treifa is something that's going to be some blemish in one of the organs that makes it not a balmum. A balmum is only for kutchim, but a treifa that is something that makes it takes that it's a sick animal. So he says that it's becheskas heter, that if you don't know if it was a treifa or not, so every animal has a cheskas not treifa. Most animals are not treifa. Once you had a good shechita, it means there's no chazaka that it's that the shechita was good. You have to know that it was. That's the first part of the Gemara. That it's becheskas iser until you know that it was a good shechita. And you have a suffix in the shechita, we say that it's asa because the cheskas iser. But eva malachai ein azahuach was shechted. But once you know that it was a good shechita, the only question is it a treifa or not? So he has a cheskas not treifa because most animals are not treifa. Rabbi Manuel, any question? Is it good now, or do you have a question on that?
No, now that's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. So now that Rami Bar Abba said that even for chulin, the butcher should not eat the meat until after you skin the animal and cut it up. Why? So the Gemara thinks maybe he's coming to argue on Avuna. The Avuna says that animal has a cheskas not treifa. Maybe the Gemara is coming to say that he argues, and he says no, that you shouldn't eat the animal without cutting it up. Take off the skin, cut it open, see if there's a treifa.
Oh, that's what he's saying. It's because
Maybe. The Gemara is suggesting maybe Rami Bar Abba meant to say that just like the Torah says Hefshei been to on a carbon ola, also on chulin, also you should have nituach and check the animal if it's a treifa, and he's coming to argue on Avuna. But the Gemara says, how could you argue on Avuna? Our Mishnah says like Avuna, means the Gemara goes back to our Mishnah and says, our Mishnah says open like Avuna. What did it say? That on Yantif, a Beima Musukenis, you're allowed to shecht it and just take a kazayis from the Beis HaShchita, from the place where, and means you didn't open it up. You just have enough time, 5 minutes, to shecht it and to take a kazayis from the place where the shechita was by the neck, and you didn't open it up to check for treifas. So as Fresh and Mishnah Avuna is right, that a Beima has a cheskas not treifa. Our Mishnah open like the Tana, keep Omer, Afilu Kazayis Chai, be based to Vichasa. No difference about Chai or Tzli, but we based to Vichasa. That means the place where shechted means by the neck, and you didn't open it up. My love based to Vichasa Mamish doesn't the words mean based to Vichasa means the place where you shechted it, means the neck. And you didn't open it up to see if there's a treifa or not. So you see that you could assume that a stam animal is not a treifa. So the Gemara tries to get out of it. It's not going to work. But the Gemara tries low. Maybe the Mishnah doesn't mean maybe it doesn't mean the place where you shechted it. Maybe it means the place where it eats, it digests its food. Rashi says, the last Rashi on the page, the place where the food is digested. Maybe Beis means from the stomach, that you have to open it up. It doesn't mean, like I said in the Mishnah, Beis means by the neck. Maybe it means you have to open it up, flare it, flay it, get to the stomach, open it, see the stomach is whole, see that the lungs are whole. Maybe it means that you have to open it up, and maybe everyone is wrong. But the Gemara says no, that's not in the Mishnah. But Tani Rav Chia, Makom Tefichasa Mamish. Rav Chia said over a brisa that Tefichasa not only base Tefichasa means the stomach, it means the place of the neck. Back to the Pashtan in the Mishnah that you're allowed to shecht an animal or yantif as long as you have enough time to get a kazayis of meat from the neck, and you don't have to open it up. So everyone is right that you have a chazaka that it's not a treifa. So back to the question: what does Rami Bar Abba mean to say that a chulin, a katzav, a regular butcher, should also learn from the Torah to flay the animal and to open it and to cut it open? What for? It's a cheskas not treifa. That's the most kasha. And now the Gemara comes up to the word that we erased before, that it's only derech eretz. Ela Rami Bar Abba, the next page, orach ara, kamashman amad beis. The word orach ara is Aramaic for derech eretz. Orach is derech, ara is eretz, derech eretz. It's derech eretz means that you don't eat like a lion eats. You don't eat it as soon as the animal is shechted. You tear out a piece of meat, even though it's kosher and everything's fine. And also, agav, the part of, I didn't mention in the Mishnah that if it's chai, so how are you allowed to eat it? It has blood over there. That if you roast it, so you kasher it. But if you're just going to take zayis chai, how you eat it with the blood? So the din is dam shelo pireish is mutter. That the blood, before it was separated from the meat, you're allowed to eat it only once if you cook it. So then the blood goes out of the meat, goes back into the meat. It's cooking in the blood. But if you're just going to take a piece of meat, dam shelo pireish is mutter to eat. So, but it's not derech eretz to eat like that. You don't eat just a slaughtered animal and you take a piece of meat, even though it's 100% kosher. It's not It's not menschlich, we'll say. It's like derech eretz. So,
To do this shrit and to take a desire to me.
it's not derech eretz. It means over here we're going to be.
What's going to do with that?
Derech eretz means you eat like a bench. You don't just slaughter an animal and put it on the table and then you start pulling out pieces of meat. You cut it, take off the skin. Cut it.
Rashi uses the word for glutton twice, Ravtan.
Rabtan. Okay. So that's how it all comes out. That our mission says, Agav, you see in our mission that there's no problem about a treifa. You're allowed to eat it from the neck. But the Recheres is that you're supposed to take off the skin and cut it up and eat it like a mensch. And now the Gemara is going to bring a few examples of Hilchos Derech Eretz. The Gemara is not going to bring this point, but it's going to bring other cases of Derech Eretz. And Rashi says, you see that the Tannom go out of their way to teach you Derech Eretz. So Derech Eretz is a good thing. And one of the things of Derech Eretz.
Saving an animal from complete destruction that doesn't come into effect. I mean, complete waste is not.
That's something else. No. Again,
override
I'm not.
that.
No. Again, we said that you're allowed to. No, on the contrary, we said. Thank you very much. We said that you're allowed to shech the animal on Yantif a few minutes before Yantif is over, as long as you be able to eat it because I space to be chassid. We didn't say differently, but now we're saying a regular person doesn't have any problem. He shechted the animal on a Tuesday afternoon, and he wants to eat it without cutting it open and taking off the skin. So we say, derech eretz, don't do that. That's what Rami Barber said. Hefshet in the two open ba'ola. And they learn out to all the katzavim that all the katzav should, anybody that butchers an animal should learn from the Torah. First, take off the skin, cut it open. Not a question of treifa. It's not a treifa. Yavah cheska is not treifa. But that
But you should do it in a way that you can do it. So you do the test, the checking.
No, you don't have to check. You don't have to check for treifa. You don't have to check for treifa. The Gemara says you don't have to check for treifa. The Rishonim will talk about how come nowadays we do check for lungs. Some things we do check. But when the Gemara says animal has a cheskas, not treifa, cheskas kshera, you don't have to check for treifa. But
So Rove Paskins. Rove behem is not treifa. Rove is enough to Paskin.
Right, there's a chazaka and a robe. Yeah, good. That the robe is enough to say that's kosher. Robe animals are not treifa. And our Gemara just said
stuff that we buy today is a little bit of excess of necessity.
What do you mean? What do you buy?
Because we're saying we don't need it.
Again, I didn't hear.
We're saying that it's cheskas kosher. We don't have to go through all of that.
To check we don't have to check all the treifas. We don't check all the treifas. We just check the lungs. There are a few things that we check, and sirchas. We check for sirchas also. So the Metzias might have changed nowadays because it could be most animals do have these problems. So the Tosfos talks about that the things that they talk about how even the Rishonim times that they used to check the lungs, and they talk about why that's the minhag because. A few reasons why they say why the minhag is just to check. We don't check all the 18 treifas. We don't check all of them. We just check the lungs and also sircha. That's very common. That the lung is also. It's also a question about the lungs. That lungs might have a hole in it. It's a way that it's attached to the kasolim, to the flanks. But anyway, here it says besides all that, you know that it's kosher, even if there's no problem about the kashrus, but eat like a mensch and don't eat the whole animal when it's just shechted. Take off the skin, cut it open, and make pieces, and then eat it normal. And now the Gemara is going to bring other places where
The Tosfos is actually very confusing because Tosfos says that if you would find it, it would be like a shoygeg and not an oinus, indicating that you shouldn't. It said you shouldn't be so quick. In other words, Tosfos is indicating it is proper to check it.
The Tosfos is going a little bit further. Tosfos is based on a Gemara coming up in a couple of lines. So the Gemara continues. The Gemara now brings other issues of Derech Eretz. And just to point out, this whole Masech is Derech Eretz. And it's a good Masech to learn. And also some of the Derech Eretz might change with the time and place. But the Gemara is going to bring a few examples of eating with Derech Eretz. Don't eat a whole garlic or onion. Eat it from the leaves. It means take off the leaves, the layers. Don't just bite into a garlic and bite into an onion. That's not the way to eat with Derech Eretz. The mochal is a rapsin. If someone does eat that way, he's a glutton. Kiyosiv, a similar case. Don't drink a cup of wine in one shot. That's a guzzler. Someone who's going to drink like that is a guzzler. Someone drinks a cup of wine in one shot. That's considered a guzzler. In two drinks. In 2 gulps, that's Derech Eretz, that's normal. I guess Revius, talking about Revius probably, which is like 86 cc. So in 2 gulps is normal. Shloshim Magasi Bruch. If he drinks it in small sips, on the contrary, that's considered arrogant. I guess these things depend.
I know that.
I guess it depends on, I guess it depends on the culture. I don't know what to say. These things depend on the culture
The
sometimes.
sipping is a sort of, it's a little bit of enjoys the flavor of
No,
the.
that's not Gasi Ruach. Gasi Ruach means arrogant. So there's something arrogant about it. And I think these things depend on the time and the place. I don't know how to apply it.
That's the point. We don't do what they say. They tell you.
So,
you know, we have to-
okay.
My wife always tells me, sip it, don't.
she's trying to study
Okay,
that.
so there's something over here that's considered, there is a level called Gasus Ruach. I don't know what that is. The Gemara continues more halachas about some things about back to what we spoke about the katzav. We said that the katzav, the main thing the Gemara is going on to now is the thing that I said about a butcher, that he should first cut it open. We said halachically you don't have to, because you could assume that it's not a treifa, but it's derech eretz not to eat it until you open it up. But the Gemara is going to say something about that. Rami Barabba, he's the first. Rami Barabba is the one who spoke in the beginning of the sugi. He's the one who said that the katzav should take it slow, even for chulin, also take off the skin and cut it open. He says chatzuva. He's going to say three things. Chatzuva. One is chatzuva. The next one is going to be netia. And the third thing is going to be termusa. Those are the three things we're going to talk about. Chatzuva. Chatzuva is kind of a grass. Chatzav is called chatzav. I don't know what it's called in English. If anybody has a translation, it's a kind of a grass that Rashi brings down, that it grows, the roots grow straight down, and also the plant grows straight up. And they told me today that they use it also nowadays. Chatzav is very common in Eretz Yisrael now. If anybody knows what it's called in English, I appreciate it. So,
What's the purpose of this? Yeah.
so it makes a border. Rashi says he used to use it to make a border. It might be something you could eat also, but the point is that it's used as making a border. When you want to mark off a border, this is the great thing to use because it goes straight down, straight up. And it's
Yeah.
where the border is. Yes, please.
I think that it's some type of vegetable, because in Hebrew, you say ma matzav and they say chatzav as a joke. Chatzav is like I think it's some type of vegetable or something. I think because it's a word that's used today in.
If you could look it up, maybe it'll help us in the dictionary. If you could look up what the word chatzav is, might help us. It's a common thing nowadays.
Yeah.
So maybe English translation will help us. So it says, this cuts off the feet, chops off the feet of the wicked. Rashi says it means people that are gazlanim, thieves. They should learn from the chatzav. The chatzav, on the contrary, it doesn't move out, doesn't spread out. It only goes in its own place. So they should have learned from the nature of the chatzav that you should be learn derech eretz from the chatzav. That the chatzav, it doesn't steal, it doesn't move out into other places that are not his. It just goes straight down, straight up. So the Russia should have learned from that. The second thing is netia makater raglan de katzvaya. Netia means a new sapling which takes 3 years. Orla, the din of orla, that you're not allowed to eat it for 3 years, and that's going to chop the feet of the katzavim and the bali nidos. Katzav is a butcher, and here was where the issue comes that the butcher that he's going to eat the meat right away. As soon as he shechs the meat, he's going to eat it, and he doesn't check if it's a treifa or not. So this is Taisus' problem that Rav Manuel pointed out before. The Gemara said before that you're allowed to eat it. It's not a halachic issue. It's only the cheres issue. Here it says that if the katzav was going to eat the meat right away, then it's going to find out that it's a treifa. So we say, look at the orla. Orla waited 3 years. You can't wait a couple of minutes until we check if it's not a treifa. So this contradicts the Gemara before. Before the Gemara said that Rav Huna says that it has a cheskas kashrus, roll behemoths are not treifa. And here the Gemara says that if the katzav ends up eating a treifa, we're going to tell him, well, you should have learned from the orla that he takes time. So Taisus said,
Is a tree? I thought it's a vegetable.
no, the tea is a sapling, a small tree. The first 3 years is called a
I
netia.
thought even a little vegetable bush or whatever. A little.
What about it?
I mean,
There's no oil on
I'm
vegetables.
aware of that. That's why I thought the word natia can apply to vegetables as well as
No,
fruit.
why did you think that? On the contrary, the
Natia
tea
is always going to be a tree.
the tea is a tree. The tea is a sapling. It's a sapling of a fruit tree.
For tree, for fruits,
Right.
a tree of fruit.
So here it says that this chops the feet of the katzav, that we tell them, how come you ate right away without checking if it's a treifa? Don't learn from Orla that we have patience for 3 years. You should have patience a couple of minutes to see if it's a treifa.
Rebbe, the rock has a whole arichus here of different examples, even Boil Nida, where people jump the gun. It's all
Okay,
it's a whole bunch of examples.
Before we go there, Taisus up to your kasha, Taisus points out that the Gemara before said that you're allowed to eat it without checking for a treifa, and here the Gemara says you're not allowed to. Taisus answers that even though you're allowed to, but it's not going to be considered an onus. If someone, the katzav, he checked the animal and he relied that it's not a treifa because the rule was that it's not a treifa, so he ate it. And then they saw that it is a treifa. So he's not amazed, he's not a poshea, but he can't call him onus. Onus means that it's not his fault at all. He should have had more, even though it's mutter, halachically it's mutter, but he should have had more patience and checked it anyway.
So Katsev is the third case. This is the third.
Concept is the second case.
I
Netiya,
thought the second case was the Netia.
there's a mashal and an imshal. The netiya is the musar for the butcher. We tell the butcher, learn from the netiya. The same way the first thing. We tell the rasha, learn from the chatzah. Learn from the grass that doesn't spread out. Then we tell the butcher and the bol nida, learn from the netiya of 3 years. The concept is the butcher who doesn't check if it's a treifa, and the bol nida also doesn't have patience. He doesn't wait till the wife becomes tohor. So he's bol her while she's still a nida. So learn from the orla. They wait 3 years sometimes. So wait until it's permissible. And what are you saying? Ben Hananel has other cases of people of things that don't have patience. Okay, I didn't see that. And the third one is Temusa. Temusa Makater Raglan is Sanay Shal Yisrael. Temusa, they say translate as a lupine bean, and it's available in the shuk. So it has to be cooked 7 times in order to become edible and good. It comes a dessert, and that is Makater Raglan. That chops the feet of the enemies of Am Yisrael, which is a euphemism. It means Am Yisrael, and it means the pasuk now that Am Yisrael did Avodah Zarah, and they did 7 kinds of Avodah Zarah, and they still didn't serve Hashem. And they're not even like the Torah. The Torah that even if it's so difficult, but if you cook it 7 times, at the end it becomes delicious. But Am Yisrael, even if they did Avodah Zarah 7 times, they still didn't do tshuva. That's what it says. The pasuk Shenemar, Vayisifu b'nei Yisrael la'asos hara b'nei Adonai v'yavdu as you can count along. V'yavdu as habalim v'as hashtaros v'as alei Aram v'as alei Tzidon v'as alei Moav v'as alei b'nei Ammon v'as alei Plushtim. That's 7. And then it says, "V'yazbu as Hashem v'lo avdu." They forsook Hashem and they didn't serve Him. They did all kinds of avodah zarah, Baal, Ashtoreth, the gods of Aram and Sidon and Moab and Ammon and Plishtim, and they forsook Hashem and didn't serve Him. As the Gemara is going to say, "Mimash meshnema v'yazbu as Hashem in yodeh shelo avdu." It says they forsook Hashem. What does it have to say that they didn't serve Him? They didn't serve Him even after all that. That even like they didn't make my children. Hashem says, he complains that my children didn't make me even like a tormus. A tormus, they didn't act like a tormus. That 7 times Rashi says it's mashriach its owner. It's mashriach the owner to cook it 7 times, but at the end it becomes a good dessert. And even that they didn't do either. Even though they mashriach me 7 times, all kinds of avodah zarah, but they still didn't become tshuva at the end. So those were the 3 things that Rami Barabba said. One was, the main reason we brought the Gemara in is because of the concept. That the concept, even though it says before, after the Gemara finished up, it's not derech eretz to eat before cutting it open, but halachically it's mutter. Here the Gemara says even for the Isser also, he's not deemed an onus if it was a treifa at the end. We only tell him that he's a shogeg, and he is responsible that he should have checked it. You mutter, but it's better if you have patience. Learn from Orla to have patience. We're saying 2 things. We said 2 points. We said there are 2 issues. One is derech eretz. It's not derech eretz. That's before. Now we're saying something else. That even as far as the kashrus goes, then halachically you are allowed to rely on the treifa, but it's better that you should first check for a treifa. And therefore, we do check for a treifa. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we do check for a treifa. It's permissible, but if someone's going to find out then that it was a treifa, so then he's not going to be a onus. He's going to be a shogeg because he could have checked. So therefore, learn from the chatzav not to steal. Learn from the orla not to be impatient for the case of the katzav or the bol nida, and learn from the tormus that even if you do have various, but at the end do tshuva, that the tormus, even though it does all kinds of difficulty for its own, but at the end it does tshuva and it becomes delicious dessert. So also Am Yisrael, after they do avodah zarah, they should what? Okay, that'll be like the. That's maybe that's good. Maybe that's like a Thomas. 7, nice. That, yeah, good. The Gemara continues more. Got it. Tana Mishmei of Meir. If the Imam doesn't knit the Torah Israel, the Brisa says in the name of Rav Meir, how come the Torah was given to Am Yisrael? Because they're Az. The word Az means bold, and there's a certain strength in Am Yisrael, and the Torah is good for them. The Torah tempers the Azas of Am Yisrael. Tana the Verb Mishmol, Mimino Age does Lomo, Pasuk in this week's Parsha, rest the Pazos Bracha, Mimino Age does Lomo. The Pasuk Shad is from Hashem's right hand. Did he give to them, to Lomo, to them, Age does, a fiery law. Amar Kadosh Baruch Pazos Bracha. It didn't happen yet.
It's very special. We're having this Torah on right Arab Simchas Torah. This is amazing.
Yes. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, in Allah Shetinas and Lam Das Age. The first explanation of the Gemara is that Hashem says that Am Yisrael, it's fitting for them, they should have a fiery law. The fiery law is good for them. They're the ones. So Rashi says something derogatory about Am Yisrael. Rashi says that they need it more than anybody else, which I don't understand. We see Am Yisrael is better than everybody else. Here's Rashi. Rashi says,
Because they need it, we need the Torah. We're not going to see.
that Am Yisrael naturally would be azim, would be bold and too bold, and the Torah weakens them and humbles them. And the Goyim don't need that. What does it mean that? So there's a different shot that's said by the Maritz Chia says a shot the opposite, that Am Yisrael have strength, the strength of Azas, and the Torah is I forgot exactly how he says it. Let me just see a second if I could find it. Here it is. He says, that Am Yisrael is stubborn in a good way. That even though so many Goyim have in the generations have tried to get us away from Hashem, Am Yisrael is ours. They remain bold and they remain loyal to Hashem. They don't give in. So Rashi says something that seems to be derogatory. Maritz Chia says a possibility that maybe it's a good.
Rebbe, Rashi's Peshat fits quite well with the Tiferes Yisrael that's brought in Kedushin that says about the king that red faces, and he went to Moshe Rabbeinu, he was going to kill the artist, and when he got to Moshe Rabbeinu and saw that he really looked like that, so Moshe Rabbeinu said, yeah, I was born with terrible midas, but I used the Torah, and because I worked on myself, I was able to change all those natural signs that I was a murderer and a this and a that and the other.
I heard that there's no such medrash. So if you could find it, I'd like to find the recognition. Because
It's brought in, Rav Amos Bunim learned it with me inside personally like 30 years ago. It's in Kedushin and it's brought down in Tiferes Yisrael and it's also brought elsewhere. So it's definitely a real medrash. It's not just in the Tiferes Yisrael.
It's not a Gemara in Kedushin. So if you can find the source where the Tiferes Yisrael says this from, I'd like to know what it's from because I don't think it's any such medrash. But I'd be happy to find it. But here the Gemara, the Gemara says that Am Yisrael is azim. They're az. What does it mean az? So there's a Maritz Chia here in the back of the Gemara. He says that it's a mila that they stay loyal to Hashem even though they're going trying to push them away always. Am Yisrael is the one. But Rashi seems to say that they need to be weakened and to be humbled. That they're over aggressive and they need this tempering, which I don't understand because the Goyim seem to be much more. I don't see that. Am Yisrael, I just don't understand. And also you don't find.
We have a first Chazal somewhere that Hashem doesn't bother with those who will not do His will. By nature, they don't do tshuva, ba'ava. They don't have the midas. They don't have the ability to do a service Hashem.
So he's saying like the Miras Chiyas. I'm just pointing. Rashi. So he's saying like the Miras Chiyas. I'm just saying that Rashi seems to say differently. I've pointed out Rashi seems to say differently, and I don't understand. I just pointed out the Miras Chiyas that says something like you're saying. Hashem says that these Am Yisrael is fitting that they should get the fiery law. Others have a different twist on the drasha. The same shall elu eish. The same according to the Pashut eish dust means the law. The Torah is called the dust, the law. But according to this drash, it means their way. The same shall elu means the conduct of these people is fire. And Rashi says, according to that drasha, Mimino, the Torah is given from Hashem's right hand, Eish Das Lomo, because they have a fiery nature. Am Yisrael has a fiery nature, and therefore the Torah is fitting for them. If not for the Torah, no nation will be able to tolerate, to stand up before Am Yisrael. So I don't understand. The Gemara sounds here like Rashi a little bit, that Am Yisrael is so aggressive, so strong, that no nation will be able to stand up before them because of the Torah, that tempers Am Yisrael. So here the Gemara does sound like Rashi. I don't have clarity in what's being said. Like I said, that there are three bold ones in nature. Yisrael b'umos, Kela b'chayos, Tanagol b'ofos. That Am Yisrael is the most bold of all the nations. The dog is most bold of all the animals, and Tanagol, the rooster, is most bold amongst the birds. What is the azas of all these? I don't know by a dog. The dog is, the Pasuk says about nefesh, that a dog is considered a bold. Maybe you see that he barks to people, he's considered bold. Tarnagol Bofos, that Rabbi Miller said that it means that it's dark and quiet, everything's still and silent. and the rooster is screaming that, and you try to quiet it down. Again, until you get up, he keeps on crowing. So that's considered a boldness. And the A's, some say that the A's, the goat, is considered the bold one. Probably the word also, the word A's is like Az. So there's a boldness in the goat also. In the Behemadaka means sheep and goat. That's considered Behemadaka, that sheep, the goat, is considered bold. The caper bush is also considered bold amongst the trees. So Rashi says he doesn't know what's bold about its caper. He says it has a couple of pshatim. The simple pshat I would have thought is because it grows out of the stone. You look all over, they're coming out of the cement. So
it's thorny. It's thorny. You don't want to put your hand in there. Right?
there are other kind of bushes that are thorny also, not after that. So why is slough? So they say, okay.
Rebbe, the end of the Maharsha says something very commendable along lines of what you wanted to say, I think. He says the Iker Taimo Mipnei Shehein Azin Velo Habaishin Lamad Gam Mipnei Shia Yiras Hashem Al Pneihem Shia Busha, and then he says Venira Nami Da Azvosan the Kamar Love Hainu Gevura Ela Lamod Al Divrehem Velo Yeshuvu Mipnei Kol Havi Azusan Vidumya Dahaki Kelev Lovely Inyan Gevura Kamar the kama chayos v'kama oifos gevurim yoser me'akelev ella azusanhu shelo yeshuvu mipnei kol ma'izin pneihem.
Very good. That's a stubbornness that they don't give in. They don't give in. Yisrael. That would be the Amida. That would be Amida.
We have a stubborn nation, and Moshe says, "I have a stubborn nation here." Says, "What are you telling? What Hashem already?"
You're saying Kshay Oref. Here it says the word Az.
They'll do everything when they get it, when they know who you are, and they start to realize who you are. They'll do everything for you.
Okay. And now the Gemara goes back to the first white line to the Mishnah. The second part of the Mishnah spoke about bringing the animal on a pole. That if you did have to shech the animal far away, but you're not allowed to bring it back on a pole, you have to cut it up and then bring it back. And Rashi says because Ilusa. So the Gemara is going to bring other things that are considered as Ilusa. We're not going to talk about this case of the Mishnah anymore, but related topics that are also considered as Ilusa. A blind man can't go out with a stick. That's considered as Ilusa. Even though he uses a stick in order to find his way, it's not mamish supporting him. A chiger, maybe somebody's limping, is allowed to use a cane maybe on Yontif, but maybe even on Shabbos they talk about. I don't know Allah over there. But as far as a blind man, he's not allowed to use a stick in order to find his way. Well, it's considered as Ilus of Yom Tov. Below Tamilo, also a shepherd with his knapsack. A knapsack is, even though you're allowed to carry, and you can talk about Shabbos also, even though you're allowed to carry, but it should be a mechubatik way of carrying. You don't go with maybe a knapsack, something that looks very weekday, or a shopping bag, something like that. It has to be something which is mechubad. It shouldn't look like a weekday. And also not to go up with a chair. The chair means that people are going to carry him in a chair. It's also as Ilus as Uvda, the whole is Ilus of Yom Tov, that people carry somebody in a chair. That doesn't mean a wheelchair. It probably means something which is mechubad. Echad ish v'echad isha, no difference a man or a woman. They're not allowed to be carried by a chair. The Moshe Kasha Eini v'Shalach Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi sent a message that Zaki and Echad L'Sitzkin, he lived in Suma Litzor. He lived in Tyre. He sent Zaki and Echad B'Shchuna Senu. There was an elder man in our neighborhood. By Yosef Begulde Kishalo. He used to go out with a kind of a chair, some kind of a seat that people would carry him. That's if it's permissible on Yontif to carry him in this kind of chair. Amar, he said, if it's somebody that the tzibur needs, if it's for his own personal, not. But if people need him and he can't get by himself, he can't walk, so then they would be able to carry him in a chair. So some crowd was saying, and also people, Rabbi Seinu, they relied on the words of somebody, his name is Echi Shakya, that he said, I carried Rav Huna from Hini to Shili, Shili to Hini, those two different cities that are nearby each other, and Rav Huna had to be carried because he wasn't able to walk by himself, so they carried him on Yantif in a chair, so you're allowed to do it. Rabbi and Srichim Lo, people need him, you're allowed to carry him, but really you should not. So I think that a wheelchair might be different. I think it might be different. But Enochnami, maybe it's something to look into. But here it says that Rabbi and Srichim Lo, then it'll be mutter. But it means it comes out that if ain't Rabbi and Srichim Lo, it's asa. Only people need him. But if people don't need him, so then it wouldn't be permissible. But I'm not sure if a wheelchair is included in that. But could be, I don't know.
What's really hard to stem in this particular Gemara is that we already started by saying a blind man can't use a stick, which is more of an extension of himself because we know that their sense of hearing is improved, and through the stick, they actually guide themselves so they don't fall down or get hurt. So that's
Yeah.
pretty fair.
The Gemara says that's considered a zilusa of the yontif. It's considered a zilusa. I don't understand it. I never would have thought so, but the Gemara says that's considered a zilzul of yontif, that a man should go with a stick. They talk about a chiger, somebody who can't walk physically, then he's allowed to. But a blind man that could walk, he just needs that he should be to know where he's going. So then it's usher to go on yontif with such a stick. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, the Gemara
Yes, so how is that worse? How is that? I would think that that's, I mean, you're comparing it with a chair, a guy who needs a chair to get somewhere. I just don't hear the diyun.
Saying both of them are aser. It's only mutter if Rabban Tzrichim lo. He said both of them are aser. The chair is aser and the stick is aser. It's only mutter for the chair. If it's Rabban Tzrichim lo, then it's mutter.
But a blind man can fall and hurt himself.
So he should stay home. That's what it's not. Or someone should walk with him. Someone should walk with him. He shouldn't go with a stick. I wouldn't have thought so, but that's what it says. Allah I don't know. I didn't look it up yet. And here it talks about going and carrying somebody in a chair. So it says that it's aser also. But it seems only it doesn't talk about Shabbos and Rishus Yochel. It talks about in Rishus Rabbim on Yantif. So you're allowed to carry, but you shouldn't carry in a chair only if somebody Rabban Tzrichim lo. The Gemara says also another story. Also another story. Rav Nachman Yitzchak said that I carried, I took out Mar Shmuel also in a chair from the sun to the shade, from the shade to the sun. That he also would move him in he couldn't go by himself, and they would carry him in a chair. So you see that it's mutter again, as the Gemara says. So again, how did the Gemara go? The Gemara first started that the Brisa says you're not allowed to go out in the chair. The Gemara Aini Rav Yaakov Aridi said that it's mutter. So he says, yeah, but it says as the Brisa says. The Rav Yaakov Aridi said, if people need him, then it's mutter. If people don't need him, he's not a public figure. So then it's aser. The Gemara continues.
I'm sorry, but what does it mean the kisim atvan bay?
I didn't get there yet.
Oh, you didn't get there?
You see on the screen, Amalei of Nachman. Amalei of Nachman Lachama Bar Ada. Shliach Tzion. So Shliach Tzion is a beautiful title. Shliach Tzion means that he was the Shliach to go to Yerushalayim. He was somebody who he used to go back and forth to Yerushalayim. So if Nachman said to Chama Bar Ada, who was a Shliach Tzion, when you go there to Eretz Yisrael, when you go to Eretz Yisrael, so do me a favor and go out of your way, make a detour to go to Tyre, and the word Sulam means like there was a very, I don't know what it's referring to, but there's a place which is very a sharp cliff that is by Tzor, and go, please do me a favor, go over there and go to Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi. He's the one who said, if you look up, Rabbi Yaakov Idi is the one who said this whole story over here about the zaken that had you're not allowed to go in a chair, and Yeshua Levi said that you could if you're Rabban Tzrichim lo. So he asked, please go to Yaakov Aridi, and ask of him, Kisei Ma'atunbe, what do you hold about a chair? Means this halacha about a chair, which we heard in the name of Yaakov Aridi that it's aser, Rabban Tzrichim lo's mutter. So he wanted to get a first-hand account. What do you hold? So he sent a shliach, Hama Barada, Shliach Tzion, that on the way to Yerushalayim, please stop off in Tzor and ask Yaakov Aridi, what do you hold about a chair? He went there. When he got there, Yaakov had already died, so he couldn't ask him. But somebody was there. He found Rav Zrika. Kisel probably means when he got to Eretz Yisrael, maybe not over there in Tzor. He got to Eretz Yisrael. He found Rav Zrika. He asked him, what do you hold about a kisei? Amalei kisei mountain bay. What do you hold about a chair? Amalei yachiyam Rabami. If it's permissible, so the Chayei go together with before that it's permissible if Rabban Tzrichim lo, like the Gemara said before, really a kisei is aser. But if people need him, if he's a public figure, then it's permissible. But now he says one condition: but don't literally don't shoulder him. What does shoulder him mean? My if I'm Rabbi Yosef, nowadays a lunka became to mean a word for a stretcher. They got it from this Gemara, but it doesn't mean a stretcher. So they say that it means not to hold him on the bars that they would hold somebody on their shoulder. It means if you want to hold somebody, so hold him in the chair, maybe like hold your hands down, but to put him on top of your shoulder, to put the bars of this chair on top of the shoulder, that's already too much of a zelusa, that's asa. The Gemara is the kasha, Rav Nachman Shaolei Lialta L'Meipak Al-Dunki. Rav Nachman permitted that his wife Yalta, that was the name of his wife, that she could be taken out by this kind of chair which is held up on the shoulders, and he said that that's asa. Shani Yalta the Beisa. Some of her gears said Shani Itza the Beisa. That she was scared, and she only felt maybe the crowd was pushing, so she needed to be held up high. So if that she's scared, so then it's permissible also. And the Gemara says another story. I mean, more Masutra must constantly look Shabbat to the
Because
Bigla.
she's important and.
Oh, so that Taisa says that you have to have that hefter. The Taisa points out what Chaim David wants is that the Gemara said it's only permissible if she's important. Taisa has the kasha Shani Yalta the Visa from Tama the only mati if Tzarch Rabin. Yeshlama the Nami Halchol Tzarch Rabin. Shabbos Rosh Gol Hoisa like Rabin Strichim Imena that she was also a public figure and they needed her. That's why you let her go in the chair. The kasha was okay, even though you're going in the chair, but it shouldn't be mutter on the shoulder. And the answer is that she was scared. And since she's scared to fall, so then it's permissible to put it even to put it higher. Amema Mazitra Makasvi Luba Shabbat the Bigla Misham Yasusa, Amida Misham Dochka Tzibura. Amema Mazitra also they would carry them on the shoulders, on a chair high up on the shoulders. And the Shabbat the Bigla means the Shabbos before the Yom Tov, I think, or the Shabbos of the Yom Tov. Why? Because they were scared of falling, or because Dochka Tzibura, the crowd was pushing and they couldn't walk regular, they had to be lifted up high. So then it's permissible also. So this whole sugya, the Mishnah spoke about this second part of the Mishnah spoke about the point about mota, that some things has elusive the Yom Tov, like carrying the animal home on a pole, and they said also that a blind man shouldn't be carrying a stick, and shepherd shouldn't go with a knapsack, some kind of a knapsack, and also not to be carried on a chair. We said by a chair, if Rabban Tzrichim lo, then it's mutter. And there was another condition that if it's in order to be carried on the shoulder, it has to be also somebody has a good reason because they're going to fall or they're scared or they're pushing, then it's mutter to go on, to be lifted up by on the shoulders also.
Morris times people were pushing.
Then there's a big crowd, so then yeah, but the big crowd is it's impossible. You have
I
to,
was in on Friday.
when they're big crowds, that's it. Yeah.
You get stuck.
I mean, what's Pishat in the end of Tosfos that because she was the daughter of the Rosh Galusha, it's his Rabbi Misrichim law.
That was he says that was the case. The case was Rabbi Tzrichim, she was a public figure, and then whatever the case was, that's Taisa's answers, that she was Rabbi Tzrichim. Good. That Taisa is just saying what Chaim David's problem was, that even if she's scared, but the whole heter starts off only if Rabbi Tzrichim. So Taisa says, yeah, that was the case. Rabbi Tzrichim. It doesn't have to be dafka. Yeah, it doesn't have to be dafka for Torah. It could be Rabbi Tzrichim for other reasons also. A public figure. Okay, Yashikach, everybody. Thank you. Tomorrow, the regular time. Shana Rabbah, Bez Hashem, it should be a fiscal topic for everybody. And Bez Hashem will go on 11 o'clock.
Also, that Chatzav was squirrel. The squirrel. It's a type of plant. It's a type of plant.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Good night, everybody.